Hello, friends. Welcome back to another conversation on how to live a confident and calm life. I'm Susan Axelrod, the confidence coach, and I'm here with my dear friend and colleague Nadine Searle, the calmer self coach and your cancer coach. Hello, Nadine. Good to see you.
Hello, Susan. It's so good to see you too.
Well, for full disclosure to anyone watching, Nadine and I have already been having a long conversation, and that's how these conversations seem to go. You come in and drop into the middle of something. Today, we're talking about what I call the parallel paths. Everything that Nadine and I discuss comes up organically and naturally in our personal conversations, and this idea is one of them. So at some point, something I heard Nadine said, because we voice note back and forth to each other, made me feel like, wow, this is interesting. We have these parallel paths that we're living. Now, I do have a coaching tool called Under Your Surface, and this is a little bit about that. But basically, we have the path of how other people are seeing us, the external life, the life we live every day. And then on the parallel path, the soul is traveling. It's almost as if there's something different. It's how we're really feeling. It's not to say that it's inauthentic to be showing ourselves one way and feeling another way, because the truth is that's what being human is about. Now, it is true that you could be showing yourself in a way and, being in inauthentic voice, in inauthentic experience. But today we're going deeper than that. There's the life that we live, and sometimes it's just something going on like parallel that maybe it's not as easy as we show it to be. So Nadine, let me ask you, am I on point to the conversation that we've been having?
Yeah, totally. So you also are, but yeah, totally. And it might be, and I understand it because we had that conversation. So just to maybe clarify it for people that are listening or watching, it is a lot to do. Like you said, it's not being inauthentic. It's not actually being showing something. I mean, it's how I used to live my life, Susan, to be honest. I would show a certain side of myself, hiding the bits of myself that I didn't like. And I recognize that and I've changed that because that's not how I want to live my life. Plus, it's exhausting. So, we're not talking about that. We're talking about actually, like you say, what we present, our outward presentation of ourselves, which is natural to be. This is how we want to be, and how we want people to perceive us. But actually recognizing that, like you say, on a parallel path, there is something else going on, isn't there? And your under the surface coaching tool is so brilliant at looking at that and maybe questioning and going, because I never used to question it. I never knew that I was hiding certain things about myself and only presenting a certain way. Now I'm more mindful and making conscious decisions because, as an example, with my cancer story, my experience on social media, I don't always put the down stuff. I don't like to put pictures up that might scare people or frighten people. So I tend to give a positive slant to that. But I do share sometimes when I'm down or tired or whatever. So I've consciously chosen to do that way because it's a social media platform. And I do want to spread that positivity. But I don't feel I'm being inauthentic because I'm not hiding the other side of it. And people that know me in real life know that I share it all. It all comes out. But as I say, for the purposes of social media, if you like, it looks like, everything's great, everything's fine. But
I'd
it,
like to I'd like to refine that just a bit
yeah,
because I know you so well because we allow each other to be to walk the parallel paths. It's not that you're putting a spin of positivity in the term spin. It's more like you're edifying. You're edifying and inspiring to help people understand there is the difficulty without a doubt. And you've shared that when you were in it, the mouth sores and the feet,
exactly.
and you've
I have
shared
shared.
that. You have
Yeah,
shared that, but it's edifying about the whole journey and then inspiring that, despite the journey, in this case of cancer,
Mm.
there can be positive moments. Moments connect up to each other to make longer moments and days and a life.
Yeah.
So, do you understand that? And that's really
Mhm.
what we're saying.
I do, and thank you for clarifying that because I wasn't making it that clear. But it is true that actually, the honest truth is I am being authentic because I am very positive about what's happened to me and what is happening now. I do have a positivity about it. So I'm sharing exactly what I feel, even though there are some downtimes. And like you say, I have shared that. And I was thinking that, there's some podcasts. We did one recording, didn't we, where I wasn't even prepared for it. And I looked exactly how I felt, which wasn't the best, but that's okay because we do that. But it is more a question of actually knowing that sometimes there's stuff going on underneath that you wouldn't share because sometimes you don't even know to start with, do you? So you don't share, and I tend to share sometimes afterwards. So that is, and that's the way I sometimes feel. I think it's quite important to share some things, but I'm not able to share in the moment sometimes. So like if I feel particularly rotten, I can't, I haven't got the energy to share, but I might share it afterwards. And that is beneficial. And I think as well that there is, as I say, it's not being inauthentic. It is actually feeling. I say it all the time. It's one of my catchphrases now, which just happened. Cancer's not all bad. There is a lot of bad, and that saying, cancer's not all bad, really recognizes that it is bad, but it's
Yeah,
not all bad. It's
not
not all
all bad.
bad.
To bring an even finer point to this, one of the ways this conversation came out was some voice noting back and forth. And I don't know if you said it or I said it. And that is, I feel tired. And, yes, I'm going along and living a life and maybe inspiring others, doing the things, being involved in work or volunteering, engagement with family and friends. But on the parallel path, yes, and this is really it. Yes, I also feel tired. Now, Nadine, of course, is talking about the cancer journey, which shockingly found her unexpected, unprepared. Go back and listen to our conversations on that. Having to face for some reason, one of your biggest fears was chemotherapy. We've been through that. You faced that, and here you are. Look at you now. But also, if you've watched any of our conversations, I had my own trauma journey, my own grief journey. I work with countless women who have autoimmune disorders of various sorts, which we know often are based in emotional dysregulation. And so, while yes, you're also walking the path of life, the good, the bad, the ugly, along a parallel path may be like a soul fatigue. It
Mm.
may be like feeling tired or unwell, disgruntled, but it's not all of who you are because the parallel path is true, real, and authentic. And I feel like now what's coming out, Nadine, is permission to be all that, to feel all that. And that I feel like it really kind of hits on what we're discussing today.
It really does because it is, and because you know me so well, that it is the fact that I am accepting that and I am okay with that. It is okay. I mean, the classic example is that people say to me a lot, they see what I put out on social media if they don't know me personally, and they go, "Oh, you're so busy." And I always go, "No, I'm not. It just looks like I am because I talk about things before I do them and I talk about things after I do them. So they think I'm busy all the time. And I'm not. So my parallel path, if you like, is resting and recovering and self-nurturing and self-care. I know, and I don't always, yes, I do post about that a little bit, but the difference of posting out I've been to somewhere to I'm sitting still being quiet and looking after myself, it goes without saying, doesn't it? What am I going to post? There you go. I do try and remember to post sometimes, like, you know doing nothing is rest and recovery. It's not actually doing nothing, that kind of thing. But it did start from recognizing it myself. That whole, you said it,
Yes.
like I say, we had a little conversation before we came on here live. And I think you reminded me, didn't you? Doing enough. That because that coming out. Oh, is it enough? Am I do? I still say that. And remember, yes, I am doing enough. If I'm just sitting, I know we don't like to talk about what's going on in real time, but we are having a heat wave at the moment in my part of the world. So I have been moving less. I've been doing less to cope with the heat. I've
AKA honoring
Yes, exactly. What I
honoring
need.
the
What I need.
experience of the
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
You're having a heat wave beyond what you've seen, I don't know, ever or a
Yes.
long time. Your country or your community, you're not prepared for it. This is out of
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
ordinary
We
as
can't
things
cope.
happen, all along the way. And so, to honor that and not push the self, to
Exactly.
do more than is healthy and well.
Exactly. And that's exactly so I have spent my time cancelling things with no guilt, just going, I can't do this, I'm not going to do this, why would I, when it's not and just actually don't right. So things change because I know how to look after myself better and I'm going to do that. So that's the difference, isn't it? So there is that parallel path, if you like. And I think, we had this conversation personally, you and I love the fact that it really does relate to the fact of isn't that how we run all the time? That is, I didn't realize that. Of course that's how it is, isn't it? There's always something underneath, like you say, our soul journey, if you like. I like that way of looking at it. There is, I'm doing a lot under the surface, to use your coaching tool title, which is ongoing and always will be, maybe. That is running its parallel path to my sort of journey, if you like, what I'm doing in and outwardly, if I'm not explaining that very well, but there is that outward stuff that I'm doing, but there is also the underlying, what I call my heart-centered work, that is always ongoing. And why wouldn't it be that way? It always maybe has been and it always will be. And that's good, isn't it? That we've got the parallel paths going on.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things going on. Number one, I must call out rest and recovery. I've
Yes,
said here
yes,
before in my trauma journey, personally, it was my dear friend when I said, I feel like I can't, I'm doing nothing. And at that time, she said to me, what do you mean you're in rest and recovery? And I
exactly.
literally cocked my head and said, like, what do you mean? And I learned that at that time, from trauma, from grief, from overwhelm, from anxiety, from all the things, now I'm in Sedona, and a lot of times full reveal, which is my parallel path. I sit here on my patio in a chair with a pillow at my back. My dog is on his cot looking out the fence, onto the green. And I am just resting and recovering on my parallel path, the other of which is big output of energy. Both the physical real-time offering that I give and also the energetic output of healing the world. And so, but my parallel path is sort of like being able to just sit and be. The title of my first book, Your Job is to Be,
Yes.
in rest and recovery. And then going forward, Nadine, the over self expectations. I do want to say you and I are of a certain age, and but we work with a lot of different people. I have several people I work with, and countless over the years. Someone who might be in her 40s with a few children, a career, a partner, also with a career, having, parents, having children, having siblings, volunteer work, the concentric circles just seem endless. And how am I supposed to manage all of that? You could read all of my books for the answer to that. I was that person.
All there.
But like you just said, in those days, I didn't know about the parallel paths that, oh, there is a parallel path. That's okay. Oh, perhaps it's the path of permission, Nadine. When you're in all the doing, and then, but the permission is to say no, not to be the people
Yes.
pleaser or the
Yes.
type A, to say no to things that don't serve the primary human existence in
Yes.
your life at that time. If you're
Yes.
suddenly thrown into intensive caregiving of your parents, that takes time, effort, energy, and money, then maybe you stop volunteering at the church, or at the food pantry or
Yeah,
something, so
yeah,
that your parallel path can be in that rest and recovery.
yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's all in there.
Yeah, and it's exactly the way to do it, isn't it? Because things change all the time, and then you choose, you make that decision. I'm going to do this because you either want to or it has to be done, and so something's got to give, and why not? And again, to let go of any guilt around that, to learn to delegate and ask for help. That's a big one, isn't it? Because I never used to ask for help because I thought that was a weakness. Now it is, there's other people that can do things, there's other people that can help me personally. So I think it's so important to recognize that. And like you say, give yourself permission to do that. And even if you don't know how to do it, and again, thinking back to me, I'm not an expert at it now, but I'm experimenting and trying. But when I didn't know how to do it, it was just trying something a bit different, going, I'm going to try it this way. I don't know if it's right or wrong. That's really scary. But I do know now I'm gonna try it a different way because there is no right or wrong. And also it doesn't matter if you do go down a little bit of a path that may be in the wrong direction. You can come back. You don't know till you try, do you? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, you and I, we're in our maturity, of a certain age. We are the sage elders of our time. And we can say that in part because we've traveled many paths. We've tried many things. We've failed many times. We've
Yeah.
seen it all, done it all in different ways. And that's why we're here having this conversation.
Mhm.
The make decisions, something's got to give, ask for help and give yourself permission. Permission, as you know, is something hard to come by, that self permission. A lot of times we get into extremely unclean behaviors, that because we're trying to just manage and cope on one path
Yeah. Yeah.
and the other path is blind to us. But I feel like what we're doing is helping to understand and alert people to, yeah, we all have parallel paths, and
Yeah.
everybody you see, you think has it going on, they don't have it all going on. They have a parallel path that they're walking to, and the path
Yeah.
may include insecurity, it may include
Mhm.
unclean behaviors, it may include messiness that you don't see, people who present themselves as all that. You and I mean, I can't think of anyone who's told more and revealed more than the two of us, in this space.
No,
So
exactly. And I think it really brings to mind that, you are the confidence coach, Susan, amongst many other things. And how many times you must get it, I get it. Oh, you're so confident. You seem so, together and that kind of thing. And I always admit, no, I'm not, always. I don't always feel that way, but I know how to, um, like you say, give yourself permission if you like to feel whatever I'm feeling, to say I'm nervous and but still do things. There's a book, isn't there? Famous book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. That's going back, showing my age, isn't it? But that's the kind of thing, isn't it? You are the confidence coach, but I know you're not always 100% confident. So and I'm the same, but we present like that. That's one of our paths, isn't it, to go down that? But there's the other path that maybe has the insecurities and the uncertainties and that kind of thing, and they do exist together quite beautifully, don't they? So I think
they
that's wonderful.
can.
They can, yeah, they can, exactly. And that I feel is really, really, again, that message to get to other people. This is the way that it is probably for everybody. And like you say, they can exist that way. And even if we don't know it, becoming aware of it is quite enlightening and freeing, isn't it? So why not, just think, oh, am I running a parallel path? Because you probably are.
And also, it's not like you said, and we've been saying it's not inauthentic, full reveal. I have a tissue because as soon as I saw Nadine, I already this morning when I was getting ready and thinking about this conversation, I felt weepiness come in. I think because there is a part of my soul journey for so many years of overachieving and type A perfectionistic behavior, didn't allow the idea that there could be a parallel path. You have to, hide and lie and pretend that you have everything going on. And This does lead to unclean behavior, personal behaviors sometimes, but also just acknowledging the heaviness of life today, how fatiguing it is sometimes to just exist in this existence that we're in of our time, which, as I tell people, it's not the worst time in history. It may feel like that to us and to some of us, but it's not the worst time humans have ever lived. And so, yeah, it does feel emotional, and it's so important to allow the emotions to come up instead of suppressing the emotions, even if you are the person who is in charge of everything. If you're the person who's in charge, who's responsible, the only one who seems to have it together in your family or at your work or whatever it is, it's a big responsibility. It's a blessing that you can show up in this way. But if you happen to find this conversation, we're here to say we understand that you have a parallel soul path that you're traveling, and we see the other one, right?
Yes, totally. And I think that's so wonderful to be able to say to people, it is okay to show, like as I say, I used to think that would be a weakness, to show your emotions and everything. It's okay to show that, like you did. You're absolutely right. As soon as we came together on screen here, there was emotion with you, and I feel honored because you felt, that maybe seeing me brought that out in you, or that you're okay doing that. As we've talked about many times on our boxes, when we message each other, we show emotion. We're not actually talking at the same time together, but we know we are communicating and we can share our emotions, our vulnerability, and everything that's going on. And that is a great blessing, really, isn't it, that we can do that? And to know that we can. I never used to think I could do that. I used to think you can't show weakness, you can't do anything. But I do know now that I can, and it is okay. And I do feel as well, like you said earlier, about this kind of, rest and recovery and giving yourself that as well. That recognizing that maybe that parallel path is a soul path. It's really lovely to think, what can I do to feed and nourish my soul? We know physically, if we're tired and exhausted, maybe a nap. I do that a lot. I sometimes call it meditation. That's fine. Meditation, so many people say to me, I can't meditate because I can't be still. I can't do nothing. Well, exactly. We're not doing nothing. We're doing something really valuable when we meditate, when we're still, when we do things. If we have a nap, um, we're doing something important, aren't we? We're resting, we're switching our busy head off. I talk about that a lot, switching off that busy head. And sometimes someone said it to me years ago, and I've always remembered it, that sometimes when we feel tired and exhausted physically and emotionally, we don't always need a sleep. Sometimes we do need to nourish our soul. So it might be get out in nature. It might be that we do something. It might be that we sit in the garden looking at, like you talked about, you're just sitting, looking at a tree moving, looking at a bird. That is nourishing our soul. That's doing something. So, and that sometimes is as refreshing, if not more, as actually shutting your eyes and having a little sleep. So that's, again, give yourself permission, look at that. What's the parallel path going on? What is going on? If you're exhausted, maybe question what's under the surface, like you say, your coaching tool. Why? What do I need? And I say all the time, and I've got a little meditation. I think it's a 1 minute meditation that I've got on my YouTube channel, and it is, and you can't see, but I'm putting my hands on my heart here, just for a moment, a minute, breathing, tuning in. What do I want? What do I need? And as soon as I'm saying that, you're doing it too, Susan. You've got your hand on your heart.
Mm.
I feel my body and my mind just slowing down. I feel that I'm looking after myself. I'm getting chills as I'm saying it to you, just by breathing, taking it slow, giving myself a minute and just going, what do I want? What do I need? And it's just lovely to do that, isn't it? To just, something comes up, sometimes immediately, maybe nothing comes up, but just stopping. And I'm watching you now, Susan, and you're just having a little bit of a rock to yourself. That's comforting, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. And the thing I want to say is,
Mm,
I think that took you 5 seconds to say, and
mm,
5 more seconds for a breath, and then 2 more seconds to feel. Really, this is not that I need to find 40 minutes to meditate. Putting your hands on your heart, taking a breath and asking myself, what do I want? What do I need? This is a beautiful practice that is so quick. When you were talking, I wrote down, you said sometimes we feel exhausted emotionally or mentally, and the answer isn't sleep. But I wrote down mindfulness, which then you went into that, and what
Yeah.
we in Qigong called presencing,
Yes, that's right.
coming to the present. And that was,
Mm,
immediately you calling in the Qigong, the energy to support the soul path.
mm,
You and I, you being the self-described people pleaser for decades of your life, me being the self-described type A for decades of my life, the practices that we've learned, during, the maturing after the breakdowns that we've had in various ways, which we've shared and revealed, we're coming here for the purpose of helping anyone who's currently in those stages or in a, even elder stage feeling anxiety or whatever,
mm.
and to really just support the soul path, which can, be more settled and soothing. So we just have a few more minutes, Nadine, and I want to invite people to go back and just watch or listen again to what Nadine just did. And I feel like that was the consummate tool to support the parallel path of the soul journey. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I mean, what I love is that I was just talking about it and we both did it. That's how simple it is. We can do it while we're talking about it. We both put our hands on our heart space. We both just closed our eyes quite naturally, didn't we? And we just took a breath and we went with it. And that's as simple and quick as it can be. So I will share that in the show notes, as you call it, don't you? Which I love, in
Good.
the
Yes.
description, because then people can access that. I've got a little recording of it, and it's so quick and simple. But we just did it in real time, didn't we? So people just copy what we did. That's enough, isn't it? That's exactly what it is. So
Yeah, acknowledging the parallel path of the soul journey, every moment of every day, that really is the human experience. And if you see it and realize it, you admit it to yourself and walk the parallel path in a more conscious, confident, and calm way, your experience will be lightened. Before we leave, Nadine, I just want to say that if anybody is watching this instead of listening to this, I don't think it's any coincidence that you and I both have dogs behind our shoulders on the couch and
parallel paths. I mean, it
the
couldn't be flat.
parallel path.
It's perfect.
Exactly. They're literally the dog energy. And of course, we have a podcast conversation on dogs in our lives. And I just noticed
Yeah.
that they're both, yeah,
It's just we couldn't have done. This is just how it works, isn't it? This is perfect. We are parallel lives.
we
It's
could
it's
not have
amazing how we
planned that any better. Okay, my friend, we have more conversations to come, and I'll look forward to them. And thank you for today, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Susan.